Okay, now that we have this scored and slipped on, or scored on both sides, we're going to slip this together. So make sure that you use plenty of slip in this process. I'm just gonna use my sponge for this right now. Get lots of slip on there. I'm going to bend this around, match up my scored and slipped points back here. Right, and I'm gonna start putting this together into a cylinder shape. Going to be pressing from the inside and the outside so that I am not squashing anything too much. I'm going to use my rib tool to help blend those together. Because it's a little bit leather hard, right, I have to work a little bit more on my scoring and slipping. I'm even going to take my scoring tool, and on top of here I'm going to score and really get those two pieces of clay to join together and become one. I want them to be a unified piece of clay at the end of this. Don't want this to be breaking apart later on. As I go through here, just making sure everything is joining really well. I'm even going to go in on the inside with my rib tool. Clean some of that up. If you don't like the rib, you could switch to a wooden tool or something else that you feel is getting this to become one piece of clay. But here's what's happening inside of there, right? It is not looking like a join anymore. I shouldn't know where the join is in the end. That's my goal, is to make it seem like it was always one piece. Finishing this part up. All right, now we have some Lazy Susans, or banding wheels as they're called, in ceramics that will allow us to swivel and turn. You can use one of these, you don't have to. So I'm gonna do my demo on one so that I can easily turn this so you can see what's happening and I can see what's happening back and forth. Where I'm going with this now is we're going to start with our jawbone, or where the mandible is located in the face. And so here I'm going to start to press this part in. But what I don't want to do is just push. I'm going to keep using both hands so that I am keeping it from just smushing. So one hand on the inside is helping me keep this from mashing in, right? A little reverse pressure. And I'm following this line. This is going to be our jawbone, mandible bone for our person here. Okay. All of this down at the bottom, don't worry about it. We're going to put them on a new fresh neck later. This is just to help hold our head up while we're working on it. I'm gonna see if we're straight. Yep, looking good, right? Here's where I'm at. Keeping one hand inside and one hand pressing on the outside, just following our line. And that's why those grid lines that we traced in are so important. And we can continue as we go to change the shape of the face. So if we don't like this jawline shape, we can change it. But for right now, we're just gonna start with the basic structure and we will go from there. Now we're going to work on our eye sockets. The ocular cavities are right here. What you're gonna do is you're gonna put your hand above the line on the inside, and we're gonna press down just underneath this line to create our eye socket, right? So I'm gonna be pressing in here and keeping this part with my hand inside pressed out because that's our brow ridge and we don't wanna lose that. Same thing here, hand inside, pressing down, creating that cavity. And here's where we're at, right? I'm gonna look at it, see if I'm symmetrical, get it nice and even. Keeping that hand on the brow ridge on the inside so I don't lose that whole thing. I can also just kind of smooth as I'm going, right? I don't have to, if you see any cracks happening, just gently smooth or push with your finger to smooth those up. All right, there is my eye socket placement. Now, what we're gonna do is we're going to actually put this head and start to pull it in a little bit, because right now it's kind of coming out with the cylinder. You can do it with the needle tool, or we have these lovely fettling knives over on the tool counter. And I'm going to slice into this head about 1 inch deep in the back, and I'm going to dart this over. I'm just gonna flap those two over. I'm going to score and slip to make sure that those join together really well, just like I did before, so that it doesn't look like there's any seams. So serious scoring and slipping here, nothing nice and light and fluffy. We want this to stick. Getting my slip here. Remember, add lots of slip if you need to. All right, I'm using my sponge to get up a whole bunch extra that I can't get just on my finger. Fill this in with lots of slip. And I'm going to press these, smooth that together. Right. I can actually take my scoring tool again, and just right here, I'm gonna really rough that up and try to get those to be one piece again. Do that on the inside a little bit. Take my rubber rib, holding on the inside so I don't smush it in. I'm compressing that clay, getting it all to be one piece again. Remember, clay has a memory. I'm gonna say it 1,000 times. We're recompressing the molecules into a new shape. Do the same thing on the inside. And again, you can use a different tool, but I find the rib really helpful in these kind of situations. And there's now the back of my head. It started to pull that in. The next thing we're gonna do is you're gonna need a fresh piece of clay. We are going to create the skull cap, the top of his head, so that we have our full figure in height. Okay, I've got a fresh piece of clay here. I'm gonna do my regular ritual of wedging and getting it ready to use. Clean up my slab mat so I don't have little bits hanging out. Do a little bit of wedging, get the clay ready to be used. Basically what we're gonna do is a tiny little pinch creation. I'm gonna use, I don't know, maybe this larger piece right here. So you're gonna have to kind of wing it, see what fits, what works for your sculpture. I'm going to press in with my thumb, kind of start to make a bit of a flat pinch pot. I don't want it to be super deep, but I need it to fit my little guy's head here, right? And I want to thin it out. Doesn't need to be super thick. It should be about the same thickness as the rest of the head. I hope you're enjoying this clay. I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's one of my all-time favorite clays out there. You can be the judge after you do some work with it, but all right, so I'm just smoothing with some pressure with my fingers. You could do it with a rib if you want, up to you. I just kind of push and smooth. And let's see, this is going to be rather large right now, so I'm going to fix it up to the size I need it to be. Push this way and that way. Okay. This part to come out and that to go in. I've got extra over here, so I can just take my fettling knife and cut off any of the extra I don't need. reshape here. Pinch off a little extra over there. There's no wrong or right way to remove material. Now, I do not want to attach it, right? See how I'm starting to smudge and it's attaching a little bit. These need to be separate pieces because we're gonna take the top on and off while we continue to work inside of our head to make the rest of the facial features. Let's see. Oh, that goes on the back. And I think this is going to be good for right now. Does not need to be perfect. We will adjust and change a little bit as we go. Just want the basic shape of my head so I know how tall my character is going to be here. Now, the one thing that happens is when I start taking this on and off, I'm going to lose my understanding of where the front is and where the back is. So I'm going to take my tool, I can take a needle tool or the fettling knife, and I'm going to put right here in the front, I already have a line for the center. I'm going to put that mark there. And in the back, I'm going to put a mark here. So I draw this mark from the top onto the cap and from here onto the cap. And I can even put like a little plus sign or something here so I know that that is the front. And now when I take that off, I can then line those back up and know that that is the correct direction of the skull cap I built this little character. We're gonna need this and we're gonna get a couple new tools for our next part. Okay, for this part, we're going to use calipers and a ruler. So these are the calipers. And if you need to tighten them, down here is where you tighten. I'm going to use them this way. So I go from the top of here to the bottom of there. I need to measure my head and see from the bottom of the chin to where the top of the head would be. There we go. There's my measurement right there. And I'll take this over to my ruler. And I'm just under 6 inches. So I'm going to shrink this down to about 2 3/4 or so. There's my new measurement from here to there, and that's going to be my halfway mark in my face. So I'm going to measure that again here from the bottom of the chin to here, and that's where I'm going to put this mark here for the eye. Do it again over here. There we go. So this is the halfway point, and I'm just going to mark those out. That's going to be my eye, just like that. And now I'm going to put some marks across the top. So we have our original mark here, right there for our brow ridge that was part of our pattern. I'm going to mark that there, keep that there. Now I'm going to put these 2 lines that are on the sides of the eyes from our template, and that's going to go straight down. And this one's going to go straight down, just like that. And I'm going to put the eye line all the way across there. That is where our eyes are going to reside within the head. Same thing over here. I'm going to mark that line coming down, mark that line coming down, get my eye straight across. Okay, there's the mark for this one. Now I'm going to take these 2 inner lines and I'm going to take those lines farther down to this line here. This hash mark here is to represent the bottom of my nose. So I'm going to put that line right there. So there's going to be my nose. Now I'm going to take this top of his head off and set that to the side so that I can get into my head again. I'm going to be pushing here with the brow ridge. I want to make sure that that brow ridge is coming out nicely. Okay. Same thing over here. Push that brow ridge out. I'm going to push out the inside part of my eye just a little bit to give that where the cavity of my eye is going to be. Right, shaping up what's going to happen there, right? Just trying to keep all these different shapes, right? We have the eye socket, but then the eye comes out from right about there, right? The eyeball that lives within this socket. All right, so just getting things in place. We'll still work on those a lot more as we go. Just keep kind of pressing around. All right, now we are going to work on the temporal region over here. So this line here, we're gonna start to push this down and smooth this in so that it becomes flat side to the head and goes in. So here's my head model. Let's take a look here. And the reason is there are different planes to the face. This part is round, and this part here, this temporal bone region, is flat. So if you touch your own head, you're gonna feel that. And that's what we're doing here, is we're pushing that in so that we have a very distinct plane change on our sculpture. So I'm just gonna push those in. Right? If you start to get some cracking, get your sponge, oops, might have been a little more water than I needed, and smooth some water in there, right? You can use my rib if something needs compressed, push those pieces back together. As things start to dry a little, we can always rehydrate and help that clay out when it gets a little too thirsty in certain spots. Better to fix the crack while it's just a baby before it starts to spread and get larger. Okay? So pressing in that temporal region, flattening that part out. And then we'll do the same thing over on this side. And again, I can feel my clay getting a little bit dry, so just a little rehydration. Just depends what texture and dryness your clay is at. It's just getting the feel of what your clay wants and when. Okay, give it a look from the front. Trying to go with some symmetry here. There we go. All right, so pushing those into that side. I'll keep messing with my brow bone a little bit. All right, sometimes just smoothing with my thumb if I need to get any of the cracks out. All right, now I'm gonna move into this nasal bone area. We've defined where it's going to be. From the inside, I'm gonna put this finger here. I'm gonna kind of pinch with these two fingers. I'm gonna push out from the inside. This is gonna be the bottom area of the nose. And this is defining where that nasal bone is going to be. There'll be lots of changes to the features as we go. This is just getting all of our landmarks in place, right? Places that start to split that bother me, right? I just kind of press and smooth those back into place. Oops. All right, so now I've got a nose feature set up on my character. And the last thing we're gonna do during this section is our zygomatic arches, which are our cheekbones. So right in here, I'm just gonna push from the inside out. I'm just smoothing some of the things I cut, right? Just so I don't leave a big gaping hole. But I'm gonna start putting in those arches and changing this from a slab, a flat piece, starting to round things out. And the other cheekbone over here, that zygomatic arch, pushing those pieces in, right? So our head model over here, this right here is that zygomatic arch, right? We have these plane changes. It's right on the outside part of the eye, right where your cheekbone is, and pushes out from your face. So not way out here, just right kind of underneath that eye area, giving a little bit of a shape. We'll continue to shape and change it for what we want the person to look like. But this gets us the beginning of a face to work with. So we have somewhere to start. So there's the beginning of my person. And then next we'll move into the lips. Okay, to do some of the things with the lips here, we're just gonna get the basic shape. So here, I think my nose went down a little low, so I'm gonna push that back up to where that line was. I'm gonna put my hands on either side, basically where the nose is. And this line here is gonna be the mouth. I'm just gonna kind of push this out a little bit so that I kind of round this out. This is where like our teeth are. This is where everything's gonna be happening. We'll put lips in later, but this is just getting that space looking the right basic shape. And now here, this last line, we're gonna push out for the chin. And I'm gonna turn this towards me to get there. Right, giving that chin a little bit of a push out. I can smooth whichever direction I need at the bottom or help hold there. All right, so here is my basic shape for my head. If I need to smooth these back together, right, we're gonna be adding clay and everything, so it's not really gonna matter, but if you're afraid the crack's gonna continue farther, just smooth those out. Keeping this pressed out towards me, teeth shape, roundness, chin. All right, now I'm gonna take my little head cap here and I'm gonna line my lines back up and I'm gonna see how this fits on here. I might have to push out some of the head again from here, right? I don't wanna change my temporal bones, but I need to round that back out. Make sure this guy fits okay. We have these paddles over there where you can lightly tap and get things to go back into the shape that you're looking for, or just adjust shapes. You can do that with your hand too if you prefer, but it's a lot easier with the paddle. That's why they make these for ceramics. Okay, just trying to get that all lined up where I want it to fit. This is going to be the shape of my head, right? As I look at it from the front, I'm trying to get kind of this round sphere shape that happens within here. When I turn from the side, I'm looking more at this kind of egg shape. And just making little changes and adjustments. And I think this is a good place for me to start. The only thing I notice is I want my forehead to bump out just a little bit more here, so I'm gonna push that out right in there. Felt a little flat. There we go, rounding out that forehead. Line my little skull cap back up on his marks. And that will work for now. So that's where we're gonna pause.